We have them tied on the end of a string.
Sayonara, nigga!
Oh, my pokso.
Oh, hey, babe.
Hello and welcome back to Wish for Death Island. Population me, and I'm sick. I'm not dead, but I wish I was. I've been sleeping it off for the last couple days and my throat is finally good enough to record for this video, so apologies for the lateness. But today, it is finally time for the alien rat milk.
Milking up the pigeon at 85%. I'd rather not. Engaging super milk.
I wanted to talk about this for years, but I could never find a good way to do it. I'll explain more about that as the series goes on because I don't want to just lump it all into one stupid thing, you know, at the start. Buckle your fuckles, that rat milk ain't gonna drink itself. There's also something very special as well that I'm very happy to announce. I've updated my offerings for patrons to include physical mail with personal letters included. See, for the digital tiers I offer basically pay what you want, so if you give me like $1 or something you can get everything. I don't really do the whole tier system with that. Just to make it more accessible, I always prefer to do it that way. However, obviously for the physical tier I do have to put limits and different types of tiers. You can read more about it in the description, but to give you a quick rundown, every single month you'll get exclusive designs that are not on the shop, and if you want them to be on the shop then you as patron get to vote on that and message me to let me know. You'll get stickers, art prints, new shop items that will be given to you before they're even shown on the store, so you can give me personal feedback. I'm only physically able to do a certain amount, so I did have to put limits on them, but hopefully there's enough for everyone. For April it'll be a Storm and Clouds tier with some stuff that you can see here, and then the month after that there's an Arcane tier because I have brain rot and I had to make some art on the show. So there's some of the stuff you'll be getting. Hopefully that is interesting. Anyway, what we're doing, talking about movies, there's a point to this video. Okay, so as you've seen from the title, my entire goal is to prove that The Last Jedi is a bad movie without going very much into the Star Wars fandom or even really talking about Star Wars lore in particular, because there's an important bunch of reasons to do it this way. For one, I personally am not really a big fan anymore, yet I was still able to tell that this movie was bad. I used to be a huge fan of it, but I started falling out of it and my interest just never really got back to what it once was, and I kind of realized that the reason why I loved it so much is because my dad would watch them with me on VHS and I just, you know, hanging out with my dad. It was fun, and like even to this day my dad isn't that big of a fan of it. He's more of a Star Trek fan, so I guess like I've always been more of a Star Trek fan as well, I guess just because of my dad. But it's kind of funny that I'm actually almost like getting more interested in Star Wars purely because I hate this movie so much. So there's that whole personal history that I don't know, I think is interesting for some reason. The reason why that's important is because one of the first things I see from people is, "You're so sexist and racist, you're a fandom chud, that's the only reason you have a problem with this movie is because you're a toxic fandom," or some shit like that. Don't even get me started on that shit, like you're not allowed to criticize the thing you're in a fandom of kind of thing, or the ism-tisms. But the important thing about that is that no, I'm not coming from the perspective of someone who's like that. I'm specifically coming from the perspective of someone who went into it, watched it, I guess you could call me like normie levels of lore in the fandom, and I was still able to see that it was shit, because there are specific things in the movie, such as the movie contradicting itself and characters saying one thing at the start and then not doing something consistent with any sort of arc or anything interesting. And of course I do have to bring up some Star Wars stuff because of course I do. It has to be like a well-rounded discussion that's easy to understand, and I will have to bring up some of that stuff, but you'll never hear me bring up something that is, I guess, super particular, like knowing a certain thing that a fan would really know and be able to talk about. It would just be kind of the broader stuff, so that's why I thought it would be interesting, because my main goal is like, you can't really call me a fandom chud for saying that I don't like The Last Jedi, because I think it's just a terrible thing in general. I have also seen Mauler's videos on it, being an EFAP fan myself, and they did help me structure them, so I wanted to say that as like credit, because there's a huge amount of credit to be given for structure, because I don't know what the fuck to do. Also, I guess you could say this is just something that I'm really into because I don't really talk about this super often, but when I went to university I got a degree in creative writing specifically because I was trying to become a professor, because I wanted to like make courses that were around encouraging people to talk about and write their stories in ways that didn't really give a shit about the politics. I was just swamped with that politics when I was there, and it was a nightmare. I felt like we weren't even really learning anything, and I would have been able to offer a space where people can actually talk about their ideas without trying to bow to a particular, political ideology. But as time went on, I realized that universities were way too far gone and I wasn't really getting anywhere, and as luck would have it, I ended up doing this stuff and getting my shop off the ground and all of that. So I decided to just pursue this because I was way happier doing it this way, and I am more of a visual artist at heart. I do have some novel drafts that I haven't touched in months, but I'm more of a visual person. But I guess you could say there's a reason I got the writing degree. I'm just like way too into talking about shit like this. So when TLJ opens, there's the usual text scroll, there's a lot of the Star Warsy stuff, there's the spoopy lights and the music. Cool. However, one of the biggest questions that I have about the entire trilogy as a whole is, why does it exist exactly? The first thing you think about that is, what's the reason for the conflict to happen? Because the conflict's why the thing exists in the first place. And honestly, there's not a reason in this movie or in the whole thing itself that really makes it worth it. There's no real good reason why it should exist, so that's the first point. Now, you can go specifically into the lore of why it doesn't make sense and whatnot, but again, from the point that I'm coming from, the main reason is that the movies themselves don't provide a good reason for them to exist. You can have all of the filler content in the extended universe and all of the books and the side spin-off thingies that will give you a reason for why, but the movies themselves don't do a good job. And I say this as someone who has been a fan of, a lot of book series that have adapted into, I find myself saying, well, the book explains it, but not to defend the movie, to say why you shouldn't watch the movie, because the movie just straight up cuts it out and tries to make this weird mashup between people who will be easy money because they'll just walk into the theater and watch a random movie, so you need to put a certain amount of exposition in for them, but then for people who are a fan of the property already and have read the books or whatever, you're gonna need to throw in some references for them, and it's just like a mishmash of the two of them. It kind of feels like that for this entire series. And one of the things that shows up a lot in this movie in particular is you'll have characters that are introduced that are acting weirdly and they don't really go through any big arcs, like a Mary Sue being one of them. We'll get to that. But the other thing is characters that are already in the franchise who return for this new franchise, and they kind of fuck up their own characters to prop up the new ones and to do things for the sake of the plot. To better explain this, I'm going to bring up an example of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders, because this is specifically about the character Avdol, and it does contain spoilers, so there'll be a place where you can skip to if you don't want to go through that. So, in JoJo, the whole thing is you have this group of friends that are on their mission, and then one of them, being Avdol, gets shot, and they think he's dead. So for the next couple episodes, you're kind of at a loss because he's suddenly not there anymore, and for all you know, he is dead. He got shot in the head, so he's pretty much out of the picture. And the characters react this way because they're grieving, and one of them in particular, you could say it's his closest friend, Polnareff, is very, very, very hung up on this. He blames himself for this because him getting hot-headed during a fight was one of the reasons why he thinks that Avdol ended up dying. So then you skip forward a couple episodes and you get to one where it's revealed that Avdol is actually alive because the bullet grazed his forehead. I'm not kidding, that's an actual reason. But he was hiding out and recovering in secret, so they had to tell Polnareff that he was actually dead, because otherwise their argument is that Polnareff would have told someone and he's not good at keeping secrets. And all of the other characters know besides him, which is already kind of off. Even with that, the worst part about this is that all of their characters act kind of cruel, way more cruel than they usually would, to try and make this be a thing. Now, what I mean by that is, you have the characters Jotaro, who is not a cruel person. He's just kind of standoffish and he doesn't emote that much. He's a bit grumpy. He's like your very stereotypical angry, edgy boy from an anime. Then you have Joseph, who is not really a cruel guy. He's just kind of cheeky. And then you have Kakyoin, who is the most sensitive one. He's described, at least in the manga, more as like more of a feminine guy. So he's very in tune with trying to like be a good friend and not hurt his friend's feelings, especially because how emotional he is. This is the first time he's had friends or close friends, and he wants to cherish them. He would never do something like this, but here they are openly mocking Polnareff for being like, haha, you really thought your friend was dead and you were going through a whole crisis about you being the reason that he was dead, but he's not actually dead. You're such a goof. They wouldn't do that. And if you look at what Araki, the author, has said about this, he just kind of put that in there because he wanted to bring Avdol back, but he couldn't because Avdol was dead, so it's clearly bullshit, and it shows that it's bullshit. It just shows that because the characters almost have to warp themselves entirely to do something that they would never do, just to make this stupid plot thing that shouldn't even exist happen. And what I'm trying to do with bringing that up is that I guess I'd like to call it an Avdol's blemish. That's a really shitty way of bringing it up. Sounds kind of gross, but we're rolling with it. What I feel, this movie, but also the Disney trilogy in particular, it seems like an Avdol's blemish for the entire franchise because it makes all of these characters and the whole lore itself warp in a way that doesn't make any sense. And with my whole thing with not using the lore to justify it's a bad movie, the characters in the fucking movie itself act this way from shit that they said like 5 minutes ago. I wanted to set this up before really diving into it because I feel like I'm going to use that term a lot, and I really want to I want to cement exactly what I'm coming from here, and don't worry, the JoJo reveal will happen. So with that out of the way, let's go back to the actual movie. The movie is confusing because they make it sound like there's another movie that we didn't watch, and that movie explains how, let's say, the baddies got back into power, but we're just gonna roll with it for now. It's kind of just like a bunch of people, like a small bunch of people against the big baddies, like a teen dystopian novel, and that's kind of it for now. So the galaxy is fucking massive, but apparently the small ship of baddies has managed to become a bigger ship of baddies, and the only people that have something to complain about and to fight back are Grandma and her group of friends from the old folks home. Because my immediate question upon watching this is, where is everyone else in space? Are these the only guys in space? What are they doing in space? Why is there only a small resistance of people against what appears to be a massive group of people? Does the entire galaxy agree with them? Is that how they got into power? Did they kind of trick the galaxy into power? And how or why isn't anyone else fighting back? Are there going to be more people revealed to be fighting back? Why is Grandma here? Then the opening scene happens, which gives me even more questions as to why this group even got into power. One of the biggest problems with the baddies is that in every scene they're just kind of standing around looking constipated while they're kind of chewed out by this guy. Just shoot him. He's like in a tiny ship, like far away, and apparently he's one of the rebels' best assets, and he's responsible for so many of these amazing things that you apparently don't like. So if he's just there to shit talk you, you know that he's trying to distract you so that other people can fuck up your ship. So why aren't you immediately shooting him? And this is the opening scene of the movie. This is like Shenmue. No one has a fucking gun. I don't know why. I like Shenmue though. I don't like this.
No. Try asking Chinese people about Chinese.
Do you know any Chinese?
Sorry, man.
They just start bantering afterwards, and the whole character of the bad guy here is that he is some like very scary man. So why is he, one, bantering when he could just kill the guy, and two, letting himself fall for like the most basic your mom Xbox Live 12-year-old banter ever?
Look, I can't hold forever. If you reach him, tell him Leia has an urgent message for him.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir.
About his mother.
What, are you retarded?
He's clearly wasting your time, and he's like being very open about it. He's not even doing a good job. His banter is extremely tame because it's a Disney thing. After the Yo Mama joke, which is a thing that happens, this guy, Hux, who is supposed to be the big mean guy who can kill everyone without hesitation, gets really, really angry and loses his composure and just seems really lame. Like, only now you're gonna shoot him, and that's because you just fumbled your way into remembering that you have a gun and this isn't Shenmue? What, is this a cartoon? They say, then Poe, this guy, starts moving, and they say that they can't get him because he's too small and fast. Which immediately makes me question how they even made it this far in the first place.
Puny ship is too small and to too close range. We need to scramble out fighters.
How the fuck did you guys even take over in the first place if small ships can just get you? If you are having this problem now, you have absolutely had this problem in the past, and Rebels kind of have access to small things. They don't have like massive ships bigger than yours to take you down or anything. They're underdogs. So how the hell did you squash out any number of rebels ever if you can't hit something small? How does your ship have that big a flaw and no one has taken you down before? How are they not doing a million different easier things to take you down? How do they even fail? Because the end of this first scene to set up all the horrible shit that's gonna happen about how bad the big bad guys are, these guys lose a lot. A bunch of their people die, they don't do a good job, they kind of fail. But how is that possible when these guys are like really fucking stupid? And then after all of this, they manage to shoot him. His ship is also repaired using Sims logic, and then Grandma is like, disengage your fleet. Who are these people? Who are these? Where did you come from? But despite all of the shit about like flying and small ships being a weakness and everything, these guys are getting absolutely fucked, like Brazos style. And if that's the case, if these ships here are really easy to get because they're not small enough for the design flaw of the baddie ships, then why are you using them? Why can't you just use more small ships and then try and figure something out that way? Because you guys are just dying right now. Immediately opening up this movie, even if it were a normal movie that is not Star Wars, it would just be a really dumb group of people against a really dumb other group of people, and I don't really know why I'm supposed to care about either of them. At least with it being a Star Wars movie, you'll have a certain audience who are sitting there like, wow, this is Star Wars related, so I'm invested. But if it was just a normal movie that wasn't related, I think a lot of people would have just turned it off by now, because it's an extremely weak and not well written opening, and we're not even done with it yet. So we then see the big cheese of the rebel ship over here the entire time, the big cheese piloted by Grandma. And only now do the bad guys decide that they maybe want to think about kind of shooting it, maybe? Because they were just focused on the tiny ship, and if you can't hit the tiny ship, why don't you just fire at the big ship right there where all the tiny ships are coming from? So the other bombers in the so-called fleets get yeeted super quickly, and then there's this one left that kind of fucks up and finally sacrifices herself to blow it up, and it's supposed to be really emotional, but I'm confused. I don't know why it had to happen. They remind me of a scene where rebels are destroyed. Like, let's say the big cheese is taken down, and then the bombers are like super disorganized and die off really quickly because the plan's gone awry, and then the last bomber tries, and they try, and then they die, but they don't succeed. So their last look before they die is like this look of fear because they know that they didn't succeed. And then it will set up some sort of dark story where the baddies won, and then someone else sees this years later, like maybe there's like a time skip, or maybe this is like the end of one of the movies or something. Someone saw this and realizes that they have to fight back, and then like these guys aren't the main characters, they're the casualties to show how bad the bad guys are, and then afterwards some new characters or like, you know, someone else comes in and they realize that things need to be done because the baddies can't win this time. That's what I think that this is going for in any other situation. In any other situation you would think that this is like the good guys are gonna lose because there needs to be some like more bad shit happening. But the end of this scene is just like, haha, the bad guys lose though. And to do that, it kind of just, things just happen and they don't make any sense. Rian Johnson's the kind of guy who eats pizza with a fork. Rian Johnson's the kind of guy who eats cereal with water. So Grandma then decides that the Resistance needs to use hyperspace to yeet themselves out of the enemy's range. And then this big egg-looking ass motherfucker shows up on the baddie's ship to chew them out for being idiots, because they were idiots. Then he says, "Why are you being so dumb?" and slaps him like a Hispanic mom with the chunkla.
Good. Supremely.
And then he says that they have a GPS on the ship, so it's okay. That's no excuse for you to be stupid though. This guy is not very threatening if he's just a comedy character. Who even put him in charge? The egg-looking ass bitch looks like he's pretty intimidating, so why would he put like an idiot in charge? Why wouldn't he just kill the guy? Especially after something like this, do you really not have smarter people on board if you're this ruthless? So then we get to the next scene with the man, the myth, the legend. Finn, I guess. He bonks his head and walks around like a sim because he's very important, so he has to act like a fucking idiot. He's very, very important. That's why Disney shrunk him in the poster for the Chinese release so that they wouldn't be bothered by the black people in the movie. It's really funny to me because you'll get called a racist sexist for not liking Disney movies by weirdos on Twitter, when Disney would happily trade your human rights in for money. That's all they want. These people don't care about you. Corporations don't care about you. So why do you care this much about somebody else has an opinion on a movie that you don't like? It reminds me of when K-pop fans spam fan cams on every post ever. Like, oh my god, look at the serious post, but look at you funky man dancing, woo! Okay, to bring in the Star Wars thing from the previous movie, didn't he get sliced up? How is he okay? I don't care. But then it cuts to Rey. I don't like Rey. I really want to talk about why I don't like Rey, but I feel like I should try and pace myself and keep things in chronological order. So Rey is here to bring the lightsaber. Fuck it. Rey is a Mary Sue. Firstly, I fucking hate her facial expressions. Like 90% of the time she's like, duh, close your mouth, you'll catch flies. She's like the fucking Twilight bitch all over again. Second, she grew up like waggling sticks that she found in the dumpster, so apparently she's like amazing at it, even though all she did was waggle some dildos by the dumpster. She just activates God mode immediately. There's no sense that she earns it at all. Like, yeah, sure, she's a master fighter because she threw around that cardboard tube when you finish the paper towel. I'll buy that, I guess. But there's no sense of earning it, and especially you start to kind of dislike the character that, you know, one, doesn't earn it, but secondly, like, knows that they have plot armor. They just act like they're better than everyone because they're like, well, I technically am. So it just feels like there's no reason to like them because it's not like they overcome the flaw of being a dickhead and then they earn their power by being like not a dickhead. It's just that she's already this way and there's no reason for her to not be a dickhead now. Why am I supposed to like her? She does this with the Force too. She just knows what to do. She knows that she's one of those people who spends hours thinking of comebacks alone at home after someone roasted her 5 years ago, so she channeled all of that mental energy to lift up some pebbles. The entire trilogy really does feel like a young adult dystopian novel that I would hate, because especially with Rey, you got the good boy and the bad boy, and they both like Rey, and she's so mysterious and capable, but she doesn't need you, but she also doesn't know what to do about the boy trouble. Also, especially in the third movie, everyone just loves her. It takes mysterious liking to her for no fucking reason. So many people, especially in this movie, openly sacrifice themselves for her for some fucking reason, and then she just kind of stands there like, duh? Please emote. She's basically Bella Swan without the vampire shit and the falling down on the driveway. Rey is taking the lightsaber to the Stinky Island to give it to Alcoholic Santa. And this is the part where I have to do the reference because everyone does, because of the rat milk.
No.
And also, this is one of the most important things about the whole thing. Everyone knows who Luke Skywalker is, so I kind of do have to bring it up. There's also plenty of things to talk about with the whole, like, master who's, like, grumpy and doesn't want to do it anymore, and the young one who's full of motivation type of trope as well to talk about, so don't worry. The first thing he does is throw the saber away. Alcoholic Santa kind of just grumpily stands around. So then Alcoholic Santa runs into his meth shack and Chewy comes in and he's like so fucking emotional and excited to see his friend after so many years, and he didn't know where he was, and they were best friends and it was like so wholesome, but Alcoholic Santa is just like, fuck off, get out me shit shack. And then the fact that after all this time a character can reunite with someone that they've known forever and they've been through so much together and they didn't even know where the other one was, and he's saying so many things, he can't even articulate how emotional he is, and they should be able to communicate like it's nothing. With people like this, when you go through things like that, you guys don't really even need to communicate that much to know what each other is feeling. It's just like a thing that family does, but the fucking Mary Sue has to translate because she magically knows it better than he does. She just kind of comes into their friendship like a fucking toxic friend that thinks that she knows better than the other two and tries to disrupt the friendship by making herself feel more important, and for fuck's sake the movie lets her do that because that's why she's here. It's another Avdol's blemish because they're not supposed to be acting this way. Even if this wasn't a Star Wars movie, even if these guys weren't Luke and Chewbacca, even if that wasn't the case, why on earth does it make any sense for a new character to come in and translate what the best friend of the other one has said? That doesn't make any sense. and it's never really addressed in the entire movie. There's no reason for this to happen. If anything, it would have been better if this character was kind of puzzling around with the other— puzzling? Did I say— oh my god, I'm turning into my dad. This character is puzzling around with Chewbacca and she doesn't know what he's saying half the time, so they try to find like a way to kind of communicate together, and they manage to do okay. When she finally meets the mentor that she needed to find, Chewbacca realizes that, oh my god, I can see my friend again, and then they can like fall into them knowing what each other is saying and not needing the translations, and then it kind of creates that contrast where the new person kind of feels a bit like an outsider, and they are like super young and they haven't been through the adventure of the past, so they do feel like they're a bit like not included. But it's okay because, you know, eventually they'll earn the right to feel included and they'll earn the right to feel like they're good enough. But as it stands now, it's just like a glimmer of hope because the two friends are finally reunited, so maybe things are gonna be okay. It should go like that, but it doesn't because Rey just knows everything automatically. I shouldn't do the modern female characters rant. I shouldn't do it. I'm not gonna do it. So with this series as well, Han Solo is dead. Luke doesn't know that, so he's like, where's my friend? And then they kind of zoom in and then they zoom out. So they cut, presumably before Rey is about to say he's dead, Jim. You'd think that you get some sort of scene, at least later on when they cut back into this part of the story, where he realizes that he's going off the deep end and he explains why he started going off the deep end in a way that actually like fits his character, and then he realizes that his friend died and maybe he realizes that he finally has to make up for it, or he feels like he has to push forward for the both of them and get back on track and be the one who returns to his own self. So it'll give him like a kick up the backside and he starts the mentor thing with his protag youngster. And one of the things that could be more lighthearted would be maybe him saying, well, you can't translate or understand what Chewbacca's saying, so let me help you with that, or something like that. And they could like banter together and she wouldn't know what they were saying and they could kind of make fun of that. I don't know. But you don't really get any of that. When we eventually do return to him, he doesn't really give a shit because he's just Alcoholic Santa. Alcoholic Santa doesn't care that his friend died. He probably stopped caring about his friend when his friend stopped buying him booze. Again, even though, like, yeah, we're talking about it in the Star Wars context, if you take it out of that, this is still a mentor who doesn't really have any reason to be the way he is. We don't get an accurate explanation for why he's so down in the dumps, or why there's like a map to try and find him, why that should be a thing. It's not explained in the movies, or why his friend is acting this way towards him and why he needs a newbie to translate for some reason, or why he kind of arbitrarily just snaps back to the way he should be instead of like his friend dying being some sort of reason why. Anyway, so after this scene we get the big bads doing big bad things. The egg-looking ass bitch distrusts edgy boy Kylo and tells him that he shouldn't trust Hux because Hux is a dumbass. The egg-looking ass bitch then says, you have a shitty mask, I don't like it. I'm gonna destroy your mask in Minecraft. And then he also said, you killed Han Solo, but you lost to an eagle without training, which is true. And it's kind of weird, huh? But Kylo then has a tantrum and decides that he is going to ask for a ship, and he did burn his mask in Minecraft, but it comes back later. It is kind of weird that he fucking lost to a Mary Sue, and the other guy was so retarded in the first scene, it's a wonder why he's still alive. Also, egg-looking ass bitch is someone who's pretty interesting. I mean, again, even if you don't care about the Disney trilogy, if you're just watching this as a random movie, you see this like really creepy dude who's like masked in shadow, and you just wonder who is he? What's his story? Why does he fucking look like an egg? What the fuck happened to Dr. Phil? And then you finally see him and he's just introduced in the most bland way possible, and he seems like, for all of the bravado and the really weird intimidating style that he has and his giant size, he is just as incompetent because he's let all of these incompetent people in his ranks and he's blaming other people for it. Like, just fucking kill him, I don't know. And then you've got the setup for like this emotionally volatile character who's super powerful and can't really control himself, so he could, you know, do something horrible and be super angry and like and then everyone dies. You don't know what's gonna happen. He's pretty fucking scary. He's like a time bomb, but he just has a little tantrum and destroys his little hat. None of these people, like, these people are acting like Sims. This movie has no damn style. Is he like your angry stepdad or something? He does an okay job, but then you get awkward and get angry because he's like a teenager and he does weird things and gets mad. He has this kind of awkward lack of communication and you don't know what to do. Like, does he like football? I don't know. Maybe you should try and get him into it, but he never wants to come to the game. He's kind of reading his comic books all the time, and you don't know how to do that because you don't know how to connect with him, but you kind of want to ask what's happening, but he never wants to explain them to you, so you don't know how to broach the subject. Maybe you should get him into football after all. So we go back to Alcoholic Santa not giving a single fuck. His best friend died. They just kind of skipped over it, and he doesn't care. He just looks completely hammered, like Jacob. Oh, Jacob. So then Ray is like, hey, we need you to do the thing. And then Chewy, who knows him better, just kind of hangs out in the background and doesn't know what to say like a nervous high school student while his mom screeches at the principal for something. But then he uses the word unfindable, which makes him seem like he's some young adult romance book or something.
Unfindable place in the galaxy.
And then he does the thing. He's kind of just hanging around as well, milking, drinking his alien rat milk. What does this expression mean? Was the rat milk not good enough for you? This is premium rats.
The pigeon milkers.
So then there's this Jedi temple. I just want to see someone rip its head off and drink the blood from it like a Capri Sun. What? So Rey has to go to the temple and have a look around, kind of like Shenmue 2, and then she is reading some of the books and taking up oxygen as per usual. Alcoholic Santa comes in and is suddenly interested in talking to her. Is it because she's a fucking perfect Mary Sue? Because I can't really think of any other reason why you'd be interested in her, especially because we are robbed of crucial things that would make me give a shit. Like his reason he doesn't care about his friend dying, or that rat milk is more important than the, galaxy being shit. Where's the fuck's Chewy at? Where's your best friend? Why are you talking to the mouth breather? And then he's suddenly making quips and stuff like he isn't severely depressed and alcoholic. Like he's suddenly not grumpy, but then he is, but then he isn't. He says he doesn't want to teach her, but he's such a doomer, you'd think that he'd just walk away after that, but after a while he kind of warms up to her for no fucking reason. There's nothing that's been played out that deserves to be there. I guess Rey is just that special. Oh my god, she's better than rat milk. Maybe he had a falling out with Chewy because his milk as good as the rat milk. So then we get to this. God, Grandma looks fucking miserable too. So she knows that the rebel done fucked up and everything is going to shit, and she slaps Poe, which is like, Poe just kind of has a slappable face. But it's because he says he wants to like keep going, and then she's like, no, we fucked up, we have to stop and recoup. So like, I kind of get that, I guess. She has a smartwatch on her wrist that Rey also has on her wrist, and that means that Rey can just teleport back to the ship like with quick travel at any point in time, I guess. So yeah. But then the egg looking ass bitch shows up out of nowhere to fuck up the resistance because they had a GPS on the ship the whole time that they mentioned earlier, so they can't run away because they don't know how to escape the GPS. However that works. But Kylo is already there being angry and destroys their shit through the hole in the ship because everyone has a hole in the ship. I guess everyone needs the crapshoot the size of Oklahoma. These guys shit more than the citizens from City Skylines, I swear to god. Grandma wants to move back a bit so that they can do some maneuvering, but it doesn't matter because they're immediately fucked up anyway. If it was this easy, you'd wonder why they didn't fucking do that in the first scene. But then Hux ats everyone in the server to say that the small guys are fast, but they don't last very long, but slow and steadier wins the race because Biden fucked up the oil and it costs too much, so the small guy doesn't have as much, but these guys do. It's kind of funny how you're so confident now. Beforehand you couldn't even shoot at the small ships. Shouldn't you guys already know all of this information and have utilized it to stamp out the resistance if it was this easy? And they're not even that far away. If this rebel group is such a big fucking deal, then why don't they send out more of the big guns to deal with them? Surround them, really stamp them out, make sure that no one's left, especially if your stupid ship can't handle small things. How did you guys take over the galaxy when you're such a bunch of fucking vending machine chicken sandwiches? Isn't the big bad so powerful that they would have way more resources than this? Like, sending in a couple hundred people, 100 big ass ships to completely stamp out these guys would be like nothing to them. Fucking Grandma just decides to wake up from a nap while she's floating out in space and glide into safety. How? Why? When was this something that she could have done? Why doesn't anyone else do this? It looks so lame. It's so lame. There's no reason for why this is a thing. Is this just a Force thing that anyone can do now? That if they're just as special as Grandma, can Luke do this? And we don't even get an explanation for any of this. She does look a bit cold, I guess. I mean, did she just get cold? Did the Force protect her from everything but the cold? Everyone is dead, I guess. Where are they? Where would she have ended up that she can just be in one piece and everyone else is just like in chopped to bits dead? far away from her. How did they just get her into the ship so casually without being blown out into space? Oh, Chewy's back. I want to kill them. This is coming from me. I love Puyo Puyo. I watch it like every day. I rewatch it like 1,000,000 times. I watched it earlier as well. I have a plushie. I have a comic that I'm working on that is entirely about cute chibi vegetables doing cute chibi vegetable thing. For me to not like a cute thing is a bit blasphemous. But if he's so important, if he's such a good friend to Luke, then why are they just leaving him to sit around on his ass while she's talking to him? They didn't even have a proper reunion. So Alcoholic Santa gets into the cockpit to get all emotional for the first time, even though he should have gotten emotional earlier. And it feels more like a Panda moment, like, hey, now you're finally getting the emotional scene that you wanted to get before, but just this once, just for this specific reason, even though he's had plenty of reasons to beforehand as well. But after this scene, he decides that he's gonna go and actually do the thing. And then he's like, I am gonna train you so that you realize why you should be a hermit like me. But the reason specifically is that I'm going to train you, but only to show you how stupid all of this is, basically. Which, you know, is gonna lead into him realizing that he is a believer once again, and that, you know, they need to stop the bad guys after all, whatever. But still, it doesn't really explain why he suddenly wants to do this, why he's even motivated to help her, even to show her what she's doing is wrong and futile, because he still hasn't reacted to any of his friends dying. He still doesn't care about Chewbacca being there. You have to punch this tree until the ground is covered in leaves to learn the wood.
Sorry, man.
So then Grandma is out of the picture for a little bit because she used up all of her powers, giving herself a fart boost to get out of space. But then we get this woman. So, now that this bitch is in charge, things get really bad. Firstly, she gives some speeches about the Republic, but I don't really get, like, she seems to make it sound like they do some amazing things, but we haven't really seen any of it. The only thing that we've really seen is them getting their ass kicked and then somehow surviving with bullshit powers. Why is she wearing a dress? I just don't believe that they accomplished any of the things that they said they did, because nothing in here is really... I don't believe any of it. There's no reason for me to. I just feel like I watched them fail a bunch of times, and even when they did fail, they magically won for no reason, which makes the enemy even less competent than them, which makes me even more dubious that they're capable of winning, because if the bad guy is this retarded and you can't beat him, I don't think you're as great as you say. Apparently she's a legendary, amazing, super skilled person, but we just haven't really seen her before. How many rebels are left? Like 3? How long has this battle been going on? If she's such a great person, why didn't they bring her in before to, like, you know, stop the massacre from going on? It feels like everyone is just sitting around twiddling their thumbs for 30 years, and then it's like, oh, time for the trilogy to kick in, and then they just, like, manufacture some troubles. Why does this woman exist? She's not giving us any reason for it. I'm okay with the character looking a bit eccentric. I'm a weeb. I'm really into that kind of crazy anime bullshit type of style. I love drawing characters with crazy hair, and, like, you know, in universe it looks a bit odd because in the Star Wars universe she does look like it's kind of unnecessary, but I'm totally cool with that. It's just, there's no reason for it. It's like when I see a character with high heels that it's cumbersome to walk in. I'm not talking about like Raiden or something. Girl power, let's wear our lipstick and high heels out into danger and then somehow do things in a highly dangerous environment when we could have just worn boots or something. I just don't get that with the dress. Like, whatever about the hair, I really don't care. I probably would draw hair like this anyway if I was drawing a character myself for some random art piece for my shop or something. But I just don't get the dress. That's it. Like, I'm not gonna make any Tumblr comments. I'm not gonna give a fuck about that. Colored hair can look perfectly fine if it's like an aesthetic look. I'm all for it. But why the dress? The first thing that she does to show us how amazing of a leader she is to get pissy at the guy who's asking about the plan, because it's very important to be on the same page when you're commanding groups in a life or death situation.
And we need to shake them before we can find a new base, so what's our plan?
Our plan, Captain? Not Commander, right? Wasn't it Leia's last official act to demote you for your dreadnought plan?
He asks her what the plan is because he needs to know this, and then she immediately chews him out in the most weird, forced way possible. that doesn't... It sounds like it was specifically written purely because you had the line of her giving out to him. You had her saying, well, you're a piece of shit, and then you had to come up with something to get her to say that, and this is the best you could do. It's just so fucking forced. And secondly, if you really care about this, this is like a whole thing about strong female characters that like I, especially as a woman, am very frustrated with, because what we used to have are characters that, let's say like Ripley, is strong because yes, she is very capable and she knows that she's capable, but she also knows that one of the most important things is to have a good sort of relationship with the other people in your team. So like with something like Predator, the guys all treat themselves as equals, they all banter with each other, they all are confident that they're strong, and if someone were to come in and try to get at them and be mean to them, they would not like that person because that person is very insecure and they're trying to prove they're something that they're not. That's something that I see with a lot of strong female characters. They're not actually strong, they're just very insecure, because Ripley knows that for the good of the team and for the good of, you know, getting out of the situation alive, she needs to cooperate with everyone and she needs to have a rapport with everyone. She needs to respect them and respect their strengths and weaknesses and respect that she also has weaknesses, but she knows what her strengths are and she can really use them to help everyone. And that's why she is equal with the men in that situation, because she holds herself to the same principles that they do. She is willing to have herself, you know, be friendly with them, have banter, consider them genuine friends. Like maybe if she's weak, if she's not as physically strong with them, she can step back a bit and actually do something that aligns with her strengths that they can't do because she's good at them. That's why she's strong. But with something like modern female characters, they don't earn any of it, and they treat themselves like they are above all of their companions, when their companions would really, if I was in that situation, if I was one of those companions, I would immediately see a woman like that, or anyone, like a man, a woman, anyone like that, as someone who is deeply overcompensating for something and deeply insecure. So they are not strong to me. They're very weak and very, very insecure about something that they can't do, and they think that their image is something that everyone else needs to see in a certain way, instead of actually practicing the skills that they would need to be a strong person. I see that so many times, and again, especially as a woman, it's like, and especially as someone where I always get it's like the stupid attitude from the mainstream media where it's like, well, you're a woman of color, you need to watch this movie because it's made for you, and then, you know, someone will offer a perfectly valid point about why it's a shit movie, and then they'll be like, well, you're a white man, so your opinions are not valid. And it's like, I don't appreciate those movies. I don't want them made for me. I think that they're very shitty. I think that it's honestly a disgrace towards female characters by writing them so badly and then using misogyny as something to hide behind because you don't know how to write female characters. None of these characters are strong. They're very insecure, very weak. They're trying really hard to overcompensate, and I genuinely think that if this was a realistic scenario, this person would have all of her teammates killed, or she would be kicked out because she has no idea how to handle any sort of power. She is not strong at all. She is not strong-willed. She's incredibly sensitive, and she shouldn't be in a combat zone. There's a reason why they're so hard on you in combat scenarios. You can't be like this. This is a life or death situation. If this was an actual scenario, she would have killed everyone, including herself. Rey has not earned any of the prestige that the movies are trying to make it out that she has. She's not a strong woman. She's just a boring bitch who hasn't earned any respect, and she constantly is like smirking and acting like she's better than everyone. She hasn't earned any of that whatsoever, and I think that she's really weak and insecure. That's all I'm gonna say right now, because honestly, it's like with the Twilight critique that I'm doing, I can only do so much at a time before I just completely go overboard and get a headache because it's so bad. But also, I'm still sick and I really want to go to sleep. So check out the new patron tiers if you're interested, and thank you for sticking around this far. I hope that you're enjoying what it will hopefully be a series. I'll get back into making some more videos soon. I just gotta get over some of the sickness, but I'll be okay. So I hope you're okay too. Bye for now.
Komm aus Ägypten, direkt am Nil. Ja, und Schnappi ist so verletzlich. Denn wenn ich schnapp, den fresse ich. Zum Schnappen bin ich immer bereit. Schnipp, schnapp, Himmel ab, hab mich schnappenderweise auch aus diesem Scheiß Ei befreit. Und Schnie, schnapp.